Now we will be having the keynote address by Professor C.V. Rao from Miami, Florida. He will speak on a strategy to reduce the breast cancer risk in women who delay their first childbirth. For this keynote address, I would like to request Dr. Mansoor Ali from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi, to convene the program as Program Director. Professor Ravi Kant, Director AIMS Rishikesh, as Chairperson. Professor R.K. Katiyar, Ex-Director J.K. Cancer Institute, Kanpur. Professor I.C. Khare, Ex-Professor J.K. Institute, Kanpur, to chair the session. Sir C.V. Rao, sir. Professor C.V. Rao is presently Professor Emeritus at Herbert Weinman College of Medicine, Florida International University, Miami, Florida. His previous affiliation was University of Louisville School of Medicine, Kentucky, USA, Cornell University Medical College, New York, USA, Albert Einstein College of Medicine, New York. His main research area is non-gonadal action of HCG, human chorionic gonadotropins, and LH hormone, and their potential clinical applications. He has experience of more than 50 years and presented more than 250 peer-reviewed journal articles, 40 book chapters, 380 scientific abstracts. He has delivered about 200 talks in US and around the world as invited scientific presenter. He served as editorial board of several scientific journals, organizing committee of many national and international scientific meetings, other extramural committees of research grant agencies of international repute. He has been teacher of more than 100 postdoctoral clinical fellows, gynec residents, and medical students. He has been honored as U2L President Award for Outstanding Scholarship, Research, and Creative Activity. He has served as Distinguished University Scholar, Outstanding Alumnus Award for Department of Animal Sciences, Washington State University. He is member of Committee for Royal International Research Award, and he has credit to more than 200 invited lectures and visiting professorships. Professor C.V. Rao, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I know it's kind of late at the morning session, and I'll try to keep it short and very focused on a very significant topic in modern society, and it's very narrow. It's about breast cancer in young women, decreasing risk in the menopause age. So I know there are quite a few young ladies in this audience, early 20s, and the medical community has no answer for you about your incidence of breast cancer if you were to delay your first childbirth into late 20s, early 30s, and beyond. So what can we do? This is a societal problem. This is a public health problem. And we're going to face it in 20, 30, 40 years. And it's going to cost billions of healthcare dollars worldwide and bring countless suffering. So this, I said a strategy, but I could have said the strategy because I know of no other strategy at present that might help these young ladies. See, this idea of using HCG, Human Coordinated Gonadotropin, I keep referring to that as HCG from now on, came from this first one, this is epidemiologic evidence, giving birth to a child before 25 years of age decreases breast cancer risk by about half when women reach their menopausal years. This is a epidemiologic study, findings on thousands of women across the world, and number of them all say the same thing. If you wait too long, your collective risk increases. And then after each subsequent pregnancy, further decreases the risk. And that's epidemiologic evidence. There are anecdotal evidence. One is pregnancies with higher levels of human coordinated gonadotropin correlate with a corresponding decrease in breast cancer risk. Finally, women who have been on HCG diet for weight loss have a lower breast cancer incidence. I know HCG for weight loss is a very popular weight loss program in many Western countries. I understand this is also becoming popular in India. So then this leads to a question. What causes the production during pregnancy at an young age? To answer this question, we had to realize pregnancy is a very complex physiological state, and where scores of hormones and other factors, they change. And some of the changes are dramatic, while the others are modest to very little. And among these changes, some hormones increase early, like HCG. Others increase late during pregnancy, like estradiol, progesterone, corticotropin, and so on. So the question is, which one? Now, about HCG. I know some of you are reproductive scientists, you know about HCG, but for those of you who are not too familiar with HCG, it's a pregnancy hormone, popular pregnancy hormone. And this is a hormone that everyone uses for testing for pregnancy. This hormone increases exponentially during early pregnancy, doubles every 1.5 to 2 days, and then reaches a peak by about 9th week, and then rapidly falls to low steady state levels and stay there during the remainder of the pregnancy. HCG is a multifunctional hormone and with many targets in the body, including breast tissue. This is a paradigm shift. So, how do we test whether HCG is the one that's providing the protection during pregnancy? Obviously, we cannot use humans. So people have turned to using animal models, also in eggs. We then also use human breast cancer cell lines, and also xenografts. That is, the breast cancer taken from the patients and implanted into nude mice. And then you treat the nude mice just like your patient, HCG or whatever. And then all these studies have been formed that HCG has a protective role against breast cancer. Now, about the animal model. So these are the rats. These are the rats. If you were to inject rats with 7,4-dimethyl-benzoatrazine, DMPA, and give about 6 weeks, 9 weeks, they develop cavity tumors. And then, in one single intragastric installation of DMPA, 100% of the virgin animals being the animals that never had pregnancy. But if you were to give the same intragastric installation of DMPA to rats which had pups before, they would develop these tumors. So their pregnancy did something to them to prevent the DMPA to induce these small multiple mammary gland tumors. And then you take virgin animals, okay, treat them with HCG, and then treat them with DMPA, and they all of a sudden behave like pregnant rats. So that proves that what's causing the protection during pregnancy can be mimicked by giving HCG. And lastly, you can give HCG before DMPA, or with DMPA, or after DMPA. Either way you do it, it protects. These animals have few tumors, less aggressive, small, and they never develop much more beyond small nodules. So what is it saying? That you gave before, during, after. What it's saying is essentially HCG can prevent cancer initiation, cancer progression, and cancer demise. Right? So HCG actually must be non-diverse to explain long-lasting beneficial effects. Now, this is based on the fact that anyway, it's complete pregnancy, full-term pregnancy, full-term duration, and then what's on for cancer, which is separated by 40 years. So what's happening here? So whatever is happening during that completion of pregnancy 40 years ago is translated into the protection after 40 years. So you question, whatever HCG must be doing, that actions must be non-reversible and permanent, essentially lasting a lifetime. So there are two competing theories about how HCG can provide the protection. One is the differentiation theory. So you take, say, a rat, and they treat with HCG, and the breast epithelial cells, which are proliferative to begin with, they differentiate into secretory type. And secretory cells are immune to carcinogenic stimulation. And so that's one theory. The second theory is HCG induces permanent genomic change in the breast epithelial cells. So theories, the first one don't make it, simply because there is another hormone during pregnancy called human placental lactogen. It also induces the differentiation of breast epithelial cells, but it does not provide the same protection. It outright eliminates the differentiation theory of HCG action. The second thing is very interesting. You take two menopausal women, and you get a breast biopsy and look at the look at the histology of the epithelial cells. And the menopausal woman who had children at her young age has the same type of epithelial cells as the woman that never had children. Now what he's saying then is the cells that differentiated during pregnancy 40 years ago reverted back to the proliferative type of cells. So that also invalidates the differentiation theory. So that leads to the second theory, which is HCG induces genomic changes. There are a number of studies, and if any of you are serious scientists, you want to know which genes are involved, and I can share them with you. It's a long list of genes involved, and basically what HCG does is it induces the primary genomic imprinting and gene expression changes, and also epigenetic changes. And all of them involve the genes that promote cancer development, which are downregulated, the genes that are involved in inhibition, cancer inhibition, are upregulated, and finally, and then from menopausal women who had children compared to their children. Concerning the mechanisms of action, or second messengers in HCG action, the primary is cyclic AMP protein kinase A, is a hallmark second messenger system. The second messenger system is the protein kinase C and mitogen activated protein kinase. Both are involved in different ways in preventing or protecting these breast cells from carcinogenic stimulation. So here is the point. The worldwide societal change in the maternal age is first childbirth. Increasing number of women across the world are waiting longer than ever to have their first child. And it's a known, and it's a common knowledge nowadays, because the change in the globalization and economic changes, women are waiting longer and longer to have their first child. And a number of reasons are behind this. One is cultural factors, socio-economic conditions, education levels are responsible for the decision making to postpone their first childbirth. The current mean age for a first-time mom is 26 years in the US, which is about 5 years longer than 50 years ago. I don't know about this number, corresponding number in India, but I think it would be in the same ballpark range. I think we all know, in our own memory, that 30, 40, 50 years ago, women got pregnant at a very young age, and now that's being shifted upwards. And another fact is, number of 35-year-old or older women who are becoming first-time moms is increasing worldwide. This is due to natural conception and assisted reproductive technologies. And all these trends are likely to continue and can be expected to increase breast cancer risk when they reach menopausal years. So what can we do to prevent the doubling of breast cancer risk in young women who plan to delay their first childbirth? That's the million-dollar question. The thing to do is, first is a strategy, is to do clinical trials. And the phase 1, in which you take women volunteers of 25 years of age or younger who are planning to delay their first childbirth. And then, in that selection process, you got to eliminate women that have strong family history of breast cancer, and also certain activating mutations in the breast cancer genes, because there is evidence now that HCG treatment actually stimulates the cancer formation. So you have to be really watchful until we get more data. Just exclude them in your group, in your study. And this leads to another question. Okay, now how much HCG to use and how long to treat? What is the best route of administration? Well, these are kind of not too difficult to do, because as you all know, HCG is being used anyway in assisted reproductive technology, millions of treatments every day across the world. People pretty much know how much to use, how much HCG to use. So you already have baseline data, what works. And you can start at that baseline level to vary your doses to make sure in your patient population, what dose do you need to get a maximal protective effect. And second thing is how long to treat. Pregnancy is 9 months long. That doesn't mean you have to treat 9 months with HCG. So you can reduce it to, like a weight loss patients. They only take HCG for a month or less, and they're getting the protection. That means, obviously, you can mimic that HCG pregnancy for a much shorter period of time to get the same beneficial effects. And finally, what is the route of administration? What is the best route? Intramuscular, sub-Q, they already have been used, are being used. And the thing is lozenges. In HCG weight loss clinics, they give HCG as a lozenge, not an injection. So if they're giving HCG as a tablet to put in your mouth and suck on it, now why not you give HCG for this kind of a treatment? It can be done. The other thing is nanoparticle delivery of HCG. There are technologies now. You can coat nanoparticles with HCG, inject someone with that coated nanoparticles, that HCG that will serve for months on, slowly deliver HCG into circulation at some constant predetermined levels. And that can be, it's not in use right now clinically, but that can be developed. It's no big deal because people have already been using for other medicines. So if that can be used, you give a shot of HCG sub-Q in nanoparticles, and then you have a treatment for 1 year. So simple. And this leads to next issue. What are the costs? What are the safety considerations? Cost, HCG, as you all know, is not expensive to begin with. And moreover, it can be made even dirt cheap, if you will, by scaling up the production by recombinant technology. And the side effects will be minimal. We already know from using HCG for assisted reproduction. If you give HCG to someone, it's very rarely that you see the patient ending up in emergency for any complication. At the best, they have a pain at the injection site, maybe swelling for a day or two, and maybe headache. But what the hell, there's a very small price to pay for someone maybe getting a lifetime of the benefit, right? And so any risk far outweighs any risks. Now, for randomized placebo-controlled phase 1 clinical trials, they don't exist right now. This is a call, if there are pharmaceutical industry people in this audience, this is a call for you. You have a gold mine to dig. It's sitting there for you. If you develop this kind of a thing, there's a lot of benefit that you can reap, and also your compatriots in the industry. So, but from the patient point of view, it's a daunting thing. You got to wait for 30, 40 years to find out what happened. But then, if you think about it, you don't have a choice. You have nothing to offer to these people who might be developing breast cancers in 30, 40 years down the road, and it's a death sentence for many of them. And at least we should feel responsible. We owe this to these clinical trials to an increasing population of young women in our societies who are deciding to delay their first childbirth into late 20s, 30s, and so on. Now, there's one other thing here. You know, clinical trials, I'm talking from a scientific perspective. You know, I can't tell someone, you go to the doctor and get your HCG shot to breast cancer risk. That's unscientific for me to tell anyone. But then, as a patient, as anyone, as someone who is trying to decrease the risk, what are your risks by going to a doctor and say, hey, this is the evidence, this is the data, this is the evidence here, these are the scientific articles, give me a shot, and hopefully it works, and I won't have that problem when I reach my 50s, 60s. But if it doesn't, if it didn't work, I'm not losing anything except a few dollars, perhaps. But then, if it works, you saved yourself from premature death, right? So I had to tell young women, personally, should they wait that long a time to do something about what might happen to them? Of course not. You should be proactive. You should do something about yourself, about your own health. This is one thing you can do. And you go to any physician, a gynecologist, you ask for HCG shot, and I don't think anybody will mind. There's a wealth of data, hundreds of articles demonstrating in animal models, human tissues, xenograft studies. Xenograft studies is an important thing, I'll tell you. You take a stage 3 breast cancer from a patient and transplant to nude mice, immunodeficient mice, and they develop these tumors like crazy, and they die within weeks to months. But then you start injecting HCG intratumorally. You can do that because memory tumors are superficial. You can directly inject the HCG into these tumors, and they live on until the time comes naturally. So if that's happening to the human tumors in mice, it probably happens to woman who has the lesion. Why not take the advantage? The worst thing that happened to you is no response. That's better than dying in a few weeks, a few months. So I'll stop here and ask any questions from the audience.
Lecture. But what has changed over a period of time in last decade is molecular signature of the breast cancer. And molecular signature of breast cancer has demolished one theory that early pregnancy is protective because the TNBC, which is happening, is in multiple pregnancy and different group. So this theory is partly demolished that way. Question is, can we get such a molecular signature based on genetic or tissue data that who should be targeted at HCG and not everyone in the society? That's one question.
Okay.
In cancer as well.
Yeah.
And we all know that Angela Jolie is now almost a brand ambassador of what can happen and what is the extreme of protection.
Yeah.
So that we know that she has become almost like a brand ambassador of BRCA1 and 2.
Yeah. You know, if somebody has a BRCA mutations, I won't suggest at this point try HCG. There's another one of the Arab family members, one activating mutations, where HCG actually stimulates the tumor growth. So if you have patients with known BRCA mutations or one of these other genes I'm talking about, avoid them right now. But then, if you ask me my other part of the brain, I would say even in BRCA1, 2 mutations, why not try it? I mean, you know, again, as I said, HCG is an innocuous molecule. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it's not going to cause any harm. So, but that's a very cautionary approach. But then this is up to the patients to decide for themselves. If they already know that there are BRCA mutations, it's up to them.
What is scintillating, fascinating is Lozen's theory for the breast infection. That is perfectly.
There is actually, absolutely agree. Yeah.
Sir, it has been observed that when there is a delayed pregnancy, there is likely to chances of increase in the estrogen level because of the various social, economic, and dietetic factors.
Yeah.
If we reduce that particular factor, that can it be beneficial by then reducing it?
Yeah, you know, if actually, you were talking about the reverse of the same point.
Yeah.
So if somebody didn't complete pregnancy at an young age, which means that women are going through multiple, cycling, until 40s, so her breast is constantly exposed to estrogen stimulation. So that's probably, one of the main reasons why delaying pregnancy leads to increased incidence of breast cancer, right? So if someone were to, how do you prevent estrogen, cycling? I mean, you don't want to interfere with cycles. Yeah.
We want to reduce that the estrogen level increases. So we want to reduce that. So by giving it the hormones, that may be the tamoxifen or something like that, that may reduce the estrogen level because of the psychological pressure and the blood, because of their pressure in the workload pressure, because they are getting the pregnancy delayed in their life. So they are getting more psychologically, or they are in stress, and they are physically as well as socially. So they may lead to change in the increase in the level of the estrogen hormones. But about as you have said that you have the injection of the SCG in the local tumor sites. But I don't have, we have done a trial here. Might have been done there, not has been done here. Nobody has done this trial experimentally because none of the ladies are agreeing for their experimental animal. So we are unable to do this trial in here, as you are saying that you inject the STG in the tissue. This will reduce the cancer part. So if you say the patient will agree on the dying stage or third, fourth stage, you are saying, will you ask them to try it and have the results, and then we'll let know you later on. Because there are also biological changes and the changes in the genetic. That will be.
I think, Professor Rao, how you would react to the New York recent publication which says there is a crown-like structure which comes from the fatty tissue and then it generates a whole cycle of irreversible and that turns into cancer. The protective cell mechanism itself becomes after that crown and protective crown theory. So obesity is definitely one which is linked to it, and what we can control is, as Professor Ashok said, that if our dietary and exercise factor is taken seriously into account, we can at least reverse one factor.
Concerning estrogen story, if there is a safe way to antagonize estrogen actions in premenopausal women, so if you can safely do that without causing bone loss issues, then that's it. Right, yeah.
सर 2 मिनट वेट करिए। फेलिसिटेशन।
एक चीज मैं कहना चाहूंगा, आई थिंक इट और बाय एनी लोकल टू माई, इट इज बेटर टू हैव द प्रिवेंशन इज बेटर देन द लेडीज हु आर प्लानिंग देयर family after 35. It is better to plan earlier than before 30 years of age, which will be better for prevention of their breast cancer, is much more better than going into the other factors, taking the chemical things. We are likely to them cause also some chemical effect in the change in the body and the DNA, ultimately leading to change in the genetics to the other part of the body.
Cut off. You wait beyond 24, your fortunes start falling off. So 24.
मैं आमंत्रित कर रहा हूं प्रोफेसर मधु कुमार जी को कि कृपया आएं और हमारे जो यूएसए के स्पीकर हैं प्रोफेसर सीवी राय को फेलिसिटेट करें। मैं आमंत्रित कर रहा हूं प्रोफेसर राकेश कुमार दीक्षित जी को, कृपया आएं और एजीएमयू के एक्स-पीसी प्रोफेसर रविकांत जी को फेलिसिटेट करें। मैं आमंत्रित कर रहा हूँ प्रोफेसर पीएन सक्सेना जी को कि कृपया आएं और हमारे आज के चेयरपर्सन प्रोफेसर आर.के. कटियार जी को सम्मानित करें। हाँ, प्रोफेसर आर.के. कटियार, प्रोफेसर पीएन सक्सेना जी। प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर एस.एन. सक्सेना जी से मेरा अनुरोध है कृपया आएं और हमारे चेयरपर्सन डॉक्टर प्रोफेसर आई.सी. खरे जी को सम्मानित करें। उसके बाद मैं अनुरोध करूंगा डॉक्टर हेमंत पारिक से कि आज के प्रोग्राम डायरेक्टर डॉक्टर सैयद मंसूर अली को सम्मानित करें। और इस सेशन के बाद लंच है। 3 o'clock पे टॉक है जेनेटिक एंड मॉलिक्यूलर रिस्क फैक्टर्स फॉर ओरल स्क्वामस सेल कार्सिनोमा। जल्दी लंच खत्म करें, 3 बजे टाइम से आ जाएं क्योंकि टाइम से टॉक प्रारंभ होगी।